This is my reaction video to the Ravens' 28-3 win over the Browns in Week 4, putting us at 3-1 at this point. This is a day that really, the type of game and the type of result that really shows what the dichotomy of Lamar Jackson is in terms of how people look at him. As Ravens fans, we know he played extremely well today, except for the fumble, all right, on I think the third possession, maybe the fourth. But this shows what our team is capable of, and I guess why so many Ravens fans pouted from last Monday to this afternoon because of the disappointing loss to the Colts. We clearly could be 4-0. There'll be people that, as fans, we hear say, you all beat a backup quarterback and your defense played great. Lamar only had to throw for 190 yards or 187 or whatever, and he fumbled again. You only won because of your defense. Now, he did have a fumble, which that play made me very angry personally, I'll be honest with you. But this was a fantastic game by Lamar. Other than that play, yes, the defense deserves credit. A lot of those DBs that are playing, some of them out of position in terms of Darryl Worley being moved to safety, some guys being shuffled in and out. We lost our Darius Washington. Arthur Millay came in today. I thought he played well once Worley went out. The defense is part of the equation. And yes, the Browns did play without their starting quarterback and Nick Chubb. But we went on the road today and wiped out a team that had a defense that was the talk of the league. I do remember our team, by the way, going to Cincinnati in 2022, 2 weeks in a row, once with a third-string quarterback and then a backup quarterback, and playing them even in both situations, and in fact outplaying them in the wild card game, having a chance to win that playoff game. So as much as I would be sympathetic to people that are Browns fans, I actually have a couple of friends that are, playing without Watson and Chubb, this is the NFL. That's what it is. On some level, this is the reality. There's going to be injuries. We know that as a fan base, clearly. We're playing without Marlon Humphrey, without Marcus Williams. I was glad to see him be scratched. I didn't want to see him push it. Darryl Worley is a guy who played 102 snaps last week, or 103 snaps. I missed a real opportunity to do a video on him. I hope I get the opportunity again someday because guys like that I just respect the heck out of. We rolled in and out DBs today, and they all seemed to play well to me. I think the quarterback for the Browns threw for 132 on 36 passes. So whatever we were playing, yeah, the pass rushes was there and was present and caused problems for him. Arthur Millay, Rock Ya-Sin, Ronald Darby, Geno Stone, Kyle Hamilton, clearly. Darryl Worley, before he went out for the injury. Some of those guys, other than Hamilton, they weren't really on our radar to be starting. We also played this game eventually without two of our starting tackles and still controlled pretty much the entire game. The offense got real vanilla in the third quarter because we had a big lead. I'm going to let some stats flow here and then spend the next couple of minutes talking about how well I think Lamar played. If you're listening this far, you probably agree because you're probably a Ravens fan. If not, and you're a Browns fan, you happen to be listening. Look, that's a badass defense they got over there, and the rematch is going to be insane. But the bottom line is Lamar had some amazing throws today against that defense. He showed what he's capable of and how difficult it can be to not just defend him, but sometimes define who he is because there's so many things he's capable of doing. Running, throwing, finding time in the pocket. I mean, two of the big plays today, the 43-yarder to Zay Flowers and then the 36-yarder across his body to Mark Andrews, which was a short throw, and then Andrews kind of weaved through people for a 36-yard gain. Those are two examples of Lamar extending the play, moving outside the pocket, both cases to his right, I believe, and then finding someone for a big gain. Unscheduled, unplanned plays. He can do that. He can run with the football. He can, if he has time in the pocket, stay in the pocket and deliver the ball. We certainly saw that so far this year. Today did mark his fifth fumble of the season, which is too much. I think it's his fifth. Maybe it's his fourth. Let me know if I'm wrong. But he tore them up. I mean, that defense is very talented and very tough. And to me, that only speaks to how incredible he played today. 15 for 19, I think. 15 for 18. There it is. 15 for 19 passing. 198 and 2 touchdowns, and then 2 touchdowns rushing. Think about these throws. And I'll show them in film studies this week. Hopefully you guys watch this week because the Ravens won. But support all Ravens content creators for real. There was a lot of us last week that talked about how the lack of views is kind of disheartening, to be honest with you. There's people, Sip to Tally, Edgar Allan, Huddled Up Films, All of those guys put a lot of work in. Support their work. Go watch them, even if we lose, because those guys take time, and most of them all have regular jobs too. So they're creating extra time in their life to go make content. And just because the Ravens lose, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's kind of annoying when people don't watch your work. But in any case, the throws to Lamar this week, the one to Zay Flowers to meet man coverage, that was sick. 43 yards or something. I think the sixth possession, I believe, maybe the seventh. Then the wheel route to Melvin Gordon, who played well again. That was a huge play. That was a 3rd and 6. And as I saw it, I thought we picked the guy covering Melvin Gordon. And I might be wrong there. It might have just been like a snag wheel. But I laughed because I actually pointed that out in one of the previews. Like, why don't we ever pick people? Why don't we ever pick people on these wheel routes to the boundary where we know we're getting a linebacker? I'm going to tell you what, they went after number 6 today. They went after JOK with the pass. And I didn't think he stood up well. Those 2 throws would have been good enough. And they came on the same drive, I think. But then there's the absolute dime to Nelson Aguilar against man coverage. It goes down as an incomplete pass. You couldn't have walked over and dropped it out in a better place to Aguilar. And I think Aguilar's having a good season for us. He's just unable to get his second foot in bounds. But a perfect throw, I thought. You guys let me know what you thought of that throw. I thought it was beautiful. And, I mean, those three throws is on the same drive. And then there's the first touchdown to Andrews. It seems like Mark Andrews enjoys playing the Browns. And this one, Lamar, I thought was kind of fading to his right and away from pressure and kind of put it up there like an alley-oop to Andrews. I'll talk more about that comparison there in a moment. But that was a big possession that answered his early fumble. I think it was the final seconds of the first half. And really, it could have been 28-0 at that point if we don't fumble the football away. And then the Browns don't get a very fortunate defensive pass interference call against Stevens. I'm not saying it's not defensive pass interference, but I think that's the type of ball that's thrown that needs to stop being rewarded when people just throw it up. I thought Stevens had just as much right to the football as the receiver. I think it's a weak call. Say what you want about the say what you want about the Browns defense, and they're very good. They forced 7 3-and-outs today. But this is a fact. It could have been 28-0 at halftime. That's how impressive we were at times today offensively, particularly over that 3-possession sequence that I'll talk about. Basically, from the 5th possession to the 7th, where we went like this. 5th possession, the one where Lamar fumbled, we're 5 plays for 39 yards. We're rolling. You got a 10-yard run to Hill, a 12-yard completion to Andrews on like a curl, deep curl, right seam. The defensive pass interference that was called against whoever was defending Flowers, that was clear. Flowers won to the inside, looked like an RPO. Then there was a 7-yard run, I think, by Hill. We're at the 36, and you get a terrible fumble by Lamar. To me, it looked like poor footwork. But the play is what I'm interested in. It's a jet motion to one side, and then a zone dive back opposite of it, and we're under center. Lamar executed it 4 other times today. So it's not like he can't execute it. And they were to both sides. That particular play, I don't know what went wrong. We'll see it. But that jet dive ate the Browns up. We're going to give it on the jet eventually when we're under center. Anyway, we could have been up bigger than 7-3 after that 5th possession. And then this 6th possession was beautiful. We go Gus 2 runs, and I thought his second run here I thought it was a same side run. Maybe I'm wrong because I have it labeled as Pro Twins B, that 2nd and 6 from the negative 11-yard line. Second play from the top for you guys. So it must not have been a same side run, but I thought he weaved to get the first down, had 2 runs in a row. Then the RPO delay to Andrews. This is the one where Lamar throws it kind of across his body. It looks like there's a mesh, and he's looking for maybe a slant or something to replace a linebacker. Drifts to his right out of the pocket. I don't remember, if someone got beat in terms of pass pro. And then across his body, looked like he decided at the last second, instead of scrambling, I'm going to throw it back across his body. And the broadcast angle was kind of weird, kind of canted, like turned a little bit. And then you saw Andrews flash at the bottom of the screen. I don't know about you, but when I saw him throw it, I was like, oh no. Oh yes. Andrews showed his playmaking ability because I think he stiff-armed a guy, weaved back inside, great blocking downfield. And then this is what's cool. The 4th play here on this possession. I think Lamar's fumble on the 5th possession was on a jet dive opposite. And Monken called the same play. Made him execute it. Twin slot under center. I thought that was cool. And Justice Hill gets 15 yards. It's jet to the right and a dive to the left by Hill, running back to the single receiver side, I believe, which is cool stuff. And then Hill with a same side run bounces it for 7. Gordon on a counter. I mean, we're running the ball down their throat here. if you're a Browns fan, you're listening this long, first of all, thank you. I'm not sure why you are at this point, but in reality, you've got a very good defense there. Top 5, top 10, whatever. It's very good defense. This possession, we're taking them to the woodshed. 4 yards by Gus, 6 yards by Gus, 15 by Hill, 7 by Hill, 22 by Gordon on a counter. QB sweep doesn't get us in, but the really nice play, the same side run to Lamar. Bunch right A, which is probably Monken's favorite formation. Fakes it to Gus, but then Gus veers back to the side he lined up to as a lead blocker. I thought the announcers covered it really well. I think it's Charles Davis. I believe that's his name. I really enjoy that guy as an announcer. I find him to be impartial and balanced and fair and really astute. He's my favorite announcer. I know the other people, it's all about quarterbacks. I don't know what Charles Davis's playing career was even like. But in any case, I thought he's always the guy that I like listening to because I think he's into the game and he's prepared. So the defense gets a 3 and out on the ensuing possession. That was featuring a tackle for loss by Travis Jones, who I thought played really well. And then we get the ball back with 2:51 left in the half, and this is the 7th possession. It was lights out. We get a penalty. We had the screen to Hill, and look, yes, is it a hold on Macari? Yes. I've certainly seen that not called before. Let's put it that way. Because at that point, we're up 14-3. We just scorched their defense on the 6th possession. The 7th possession, the first play is like a 42-yard gain to Justice Hill, maybe more. I mean, if you're watching the game and you're saying the Browns are the best defense in the league, then what is our offense potentially when we're playing well like that? Gets called back, and then Gus on a same-side run for 16 yards, skips away from a couple of defenders. Yeah, Gus's yards per carry didn't end up being great by the end of the day, but that's partially because they knew we were running, and Gus is reliable and dependable. He did fumble last year in Jacksonville, I know, and if he doesn't fumble, we win that football game. But they know what Gus can do, and they're giving him the ball in the second half because they understand he's going to protect the football and not going to lose 4 or 5 yards, certainly not going to run backwards like the one guy did for Cleveland early today and lose 18 or 20 yards. Same side run here, gets him 16, creates a 2nd and 4. A really quick screen to Flowers where there's a lot of traffic there, and he kind of weaves through a couple of guys for 5 to pick up the first down. I think that's an underrated play there. We end up with this 3rd and 6 from the -42, and I think Moses is hurt at this point. I think he just got hurt. It's a 6-play down for you guys. 3rd and 6 with 1:26 left in the half from the -42, and it's a wheel to the left side to the boundary by Gordon. I believe there's a pick there by the X receiver, the backside receiver, but I could be wrong. Gordon beats JOK. Pretty sure it was JOK. He got beat 3 times today in pass by running backs. That was one of the things we identified in the preview was running backs have been able to beat them in the pass game, particularly on screens, particularly on 3rd down. Garrett gets a sack, creates a 2nd and 19. Then we get a hold where I thought there was a face mask on Gordon as well. Could have been offsetting penalties. And Lamar makes that unbelievable play, finding time to Flowers, 43 yards left to right against man coverage. Next play call, 25 seconds left, quarterback draw, quite predictable, obviously. We got to find some other options down there. Complete to Aguilar in the end zone, but his 2nd foot wasn't in bounds. Like I said earlier, that was a beautiful throw by Lamar. And then a 3rd and 5. Andrews. It seems to me like Lamar has done some really amazing things on 3rd down so far this year. Look, we're a 4th of the way. We're not a 4th of the way through the season technically because it's a 17-game season now, which I really don't like in the first place. But we're a 4th of the way through the season almost. 21% of the way through the season, I guess, something like that. And Lamar's done some amazing things already. We got 5 fumbles and an interception. We take those things away. If we limit or eliminate the turnovers, we absolutely could be a team that goes 13-4, 14-3. The way this defense is playing, no matter who's on the field, I don't feel untoward saying that. The capability that the defense and the offense have to play complementary football. At the half, my notes said it's 21-3, excuse me. Yes, the Browns are forced to play a backup quarterback, but the Ravens offense, I like to read out my notes at halftime because I give an impression at halftime. I don't want to say make some conclusions, but at this point, here's what I wrote. The Ravens offense bullied the Browns in the 2nd quarter. And that's a Browns defense that came in only giving up 491 total yards through 3 games. We didn't reach the 300-yard marker, but we didn't have to in the second half. We clearly went very conservative, vanilla, whatever you want to call it. Lamar only ends up throwing the ball 19 times. We get the oh, by the way, I didn't mention the interception by Stevens early. I just knew they were going to review that. And to me, like, that's the type of thing, if there's not clear evidence, you shouldn't be over there looking for 3 minutes. You shouldn't be looking for a reason to overturn a call on the field in the middle of the flow of the game. I understand that in this society nowadays, people want to depend on data and science. But at some point, you got to talk about the flow of the game. And I was glad that the next play was able to stand. You guys tell me what you saw. I didn't think there was any reason to review that play in terms of where Stevens was down. I know they have to review turnovers, but that was a clear turnover that what they would have been reviewing was whether he was down or not. And I don't think that should be the type of thing that's immediately reviewable. Anyway, very next play, Lamar gets a 10-yard touchdown on our third possession, 10-yard touchdown run on QB counter. Imagine that. And at that point, you're like, okay, well, we've scored on the Browns' defense, but we haven't really moved the ball. Then the fifth, sixth, and seventh possession come, and at times we're blowing them out of the water. Seventh possession, like I said, began with 3 minutes left, and we had 2 penalties on the drive, and Lamar's brilliance was able to overcome it. I don't know which throw was better. The one to Andrews, most people will say was better. A part of me thinks the one that's the best throw is the one to Gordon on the wheel, because Lamar's got a great arm. I've talked many times. He looks like a guy who could play shortstop in Major League Baseball in terms of his feet, his hands, and his arm. You know, and when I say that, I mean like a guy who could make the throw from the deep hole between short and third. He's got that kind of arm. But this throw to Gordon didn't require that. It required touch and precision aiming point, and Lamar found it. Man, you got to give Gordon credit. I remember when we signed him, there was a lot of people, some of which I respect, saying bad things about him. The dude's played well for us. Like, I wish people would stop doing that before the guy suits up in a Ravens uniform. But anyway, brilliant throws there in the second quarter. We go up 21-3. A very impressive first half. And yes, the Browns sold out to stop the run in the second half to try to get us off the field quickly. They certainly did. But at that point, you had to know our defense was playing so well. It was going to be very difficult for them to overcome. Even with Deshaun Watson on the field, it was going to be very difficult for them to overcome. And then for those that would say, you know, they play without a starting quarterback and a starting running back. I mean, we're without Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Williams. Regardless of what you think about Marlon Humphrey, he's a perennial all-pro caliber player. Same for Marcus Williams. That's a huge loss for us. Our 11th possession, we're able to go up 28-3 after Stone's interception. I think it was an interception by Stone. Hamilton, Stone, and Stevens had INTs today. I thought there was 3 or 4 other balls that could have been intercepted. Roquan tipped 2 over the middle. Great plays. 2 other balls got tipped, 1 at the line of scrimmage, 1 downfield. I think Ronald Darby tipped 1 along the right sideline. Kyle Hamilton was converging, and that ball hung up in the air a long time. You're talking about 5 or 6 or 7 balls that could have been intercepted. I forget which of the rating services it is that calls it interceptable balls or something like that, but the Ravens certainly went out there and went after them defensively. After that interception, our 11th possession, we get the ball on the 38. We end up with a 3rd and 9, and this was a great play to another unheralded guy. Lamar finds time, and Ricard had chipped to help out Falele in pass pro, and then slid out to the flats to the right. A great find. 14-yard gain. Really put us in the driver's seat. At that point, you knew we had a great chance to go up 24-3. 2 conservative run plays later. 3rd and 5 from the 18. Lamar seemed to step up from pressure from his right, but I could be wrong. Could have been from his left. I mean, the reality is when we had Macari and Falele in there, we could not pass pro in the second half. We just could not. I'm glad we were in the situation we were in offensively to be able to run the ball. But anyway, Lamar steps up out of a bunch formation, finds Andrews. It looked to me like the Browns were playing zone to the zone to the front side of the bunch and man to the backside. Andrews kind of runs away from the zone side over to the man side, if I said that in a way that makes sense, into the boundary. And Lamar finds him wide open. Andrews juked another guy, powered his way into the end zone, 28-3. In the end, Yes, it's a huge factor, them playing with their backup quarterback. But what this really comes down to is Lamar, under pressure, was able to make great plays against a very good defense. And if you only look at the statistics, 15 of 19, and however many rushing yards he had, it wasn't much, right? None. Lamar didn't have a single rushing yard today. For some reason, I thought he was credited with one. If you only look at the stats, 15 of 19, 2 touchdowns. You look at quarterbacks and you put them in categories. And 15 of 19, 2 touchdowns goes into whatever the hell category someone wants to put it in. It should go into the top one. Because if it wasn't for that guy out there today, we probably don't win the football game. Even with our, well, maybe let me rephrase. We're in a different dynamic in terms of our defense against their defense. Lamar made brilliant plays today at times. Andrews, Zay, Gus, they made great plays also. Aguilar almost made a great catch. His throwing was off the charts. His decision making today, I thought, was 97th, 98th percentile. Dealt with the pressure a lot better. Again, Charles Davis and them dudes, the announcers, covered it very well. Ball security could still be an issue. Still a very good defense to deal with by the Browns, and the rematch will be a big one. Both teams have tough games between now and then. Some guys that need to be highlighted this week: Stevens, Stone, Darby, Yasin, Arthur Malay. I mean, pick one. Daryl Worley went out with an injury. Like, that dude's a warrior. Those are Ravens, man. I put fans into a category. I'm going to be straight up with you. If you don't like guys like that, I don't really want to converse with you. Because those dudes right there are Ravens. They played their heart out and went out there and executed and put us in a situation where we didn't have to put Lamar at risk in the second half. Because if we weren't playing so well defensively and we weren't able to have such a comfortable 21-3 lead and we had to throw the ball more, maybe it got to 21-17 or something. Think about the Lions-Packers game Thursday night. The Lions blew the Packers out in the first half. It ends up being, I think at one point it ends up being 27-17. So it's a competitive game. They had to actually run their offense early fourth quarter. There's no reason to put Lamar at risk when we have an inability to pass pro. So my point in illustrating those guys, Steven, Stone, Darby, Yasin, Malay, Worley, Hamilton, is they're playing their heart out over there, man. They deserve respect. Some of them have developed over the years. Some of them just got here. In the absence of Humphrey and Marcus Williams, I thought this was a brilliant game by some guys that are unheralded. All right, outside linebackers. Jadeveon Clowney, man. Like, the guy keeps getting pressure and missing out on sacks. How many sacks could he have this year? But I will say this. He keeps playing, number one. And number two, when he does miss the sacks, it hasn't, to my knowledge, to my memory, it hasn't hurt us yet. But you'd have to think eventually it will. But he keeps playing football. He's getting a lot of snaps. I thought Kyle Van Noy looked really good. They had him down for one pass defense and one quarterback hit. I thought he was in on a tackle, but he had an impact when he was in there, although I didn't see him in the second half. Maybe it was a situation where, like, hey, we're leading by a lot. We're going to let Tavius Robinson get some reps and hold him out. We don't want him to get hurt or anything in his first game. Hopefully nothing happened, and to cause the Ravens to not play him in the second half. I think he's a tremendous asset. Tavius Robinson and Malik Harrison gave us some good snaps. I thought defensive tackles, they won more than their share of battles today. The run game, I thought there was some outside zone stretch concepts, maybe 3 of them that went for 6-7 yards. For the most part, I thought Washington, Matabike, Pierce, and Jones did a great job. I mean, what do you say about Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, and Kyle Hamilton? We expect them to be brilliant, and they were. Kyle Hamilton missed one tackle on the quarterback DTR, but had an interception late. I thought he showed his burst multiple times. We tried to blitz him off the edge the first play of the game. I don't think we showed it again after that. Moving forward, don't sleep on the Steelers. They're clearly struggling. But they figured out a way to beat us last year in Baltimore near the end of the season. And that game ended up being really important. We owe them one. That game, in terms of us going to the Bengals in Week 18 with a chance to win the division, totally different dynamic if we beat the Steelers the week before. We're 3-1 now. We feel like we should be 4-0. If we want to be in a different situation, week 16, 17, 18, we don't lose games like the Colts game anymore. So I understand why people were so pissed off. Today, hopefully, is a really good dessert to that horrible dinner last week, because we can't be the type of team that blows games where we're leading in the fourth quarter, like Miami The Giants, Jacksonville 2022. The Colts last week, clearly a game that we should have won. Games we're in control of. We're either dominating or at one point, or games we're in control of in the fourth quarter. This one doesn't fall into that category for obvious reasons. Bengals unable to develop any kind of offense. But between here and now, when we play I guess us and the Browns at this point through 4 weeks, you have to put us as the top two duo in the AFC North, the top duo. And then the Steelers and the Bengals clearly struggling both at 1 and 3. And the Steelers' only win was one where their defense really got it for them. 2 defensive touchdowns against this Browns team. If we want to be in a different situation from 2022, we got to beat the Steelers on the road. And I don't think that that's as easy a win as a lot of other people. If we go in there with Makari and Falele as our tackles, we're going to have the same problem that we had in the second half today, which was inability to pass pro, which whittles down the playbook, limits or makes the playbook smaller. So we want to avoid as many situations as possible, many of those situations as possible. Hopefully we can get Stanley back and Moses isn't a serious injury. I think Morgan Moses has played extremely well this season and been a huge asset, a stabilizing force for us. This defense is good enough. We might only need 3 scoring drives from our offense to be able to win any football game. When we get Marlon Humphrey back, Marcus Williams, Owe, Ojabo, didn't even mention them yet. This is a super talented defense, and Mike McDonald's doing a great job of defending whatever the opposing team's offense is trying to do or capable of doing on that day. Today, they weren't capable of executing long drives, and Mike McDonald seemed to play a lot of zone or quarters match coverages and force them to try to do so. We got 3 interceptions, multiple sacks. Thought those guys played their hearts out on the defensive side. Appreciate you guys' time. If you enjoyed this reaction video, please let me know in the comments section. Let me know what type of film study ideas you guys might like to see for this week. It's obviously going to be a fun week because there's a lot of guys that play well, starting with Lamar Jackson. Those that just look at stats and people that just look at sheer numbers of passes, passing yards, touchdowns, are going to gloss over what Lamar did today. I think who he did this against, the quality of the defense he did this against, and how they were a wrecking ball coming into today, and how they limited us in the first quarter. What he did in that second quarter and then for one drive in the third quarter, I think will probably get mischaracterized by a lot of people. It's the type of performance that we know as Ravens fans justifies the salary that they gave him. Appreciate you guys' time. Let me know what you think of the video in the comment section. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this reaction video, please consider grabbing a link to it, sharing it somewhere on social media to help this content get more reach.